Is it possible that a single car is humeling the entire Formula One grid after a race? What has McLaren done with the MCL39 to achieve one of the most overwhelming dominance since the days of Mercedes and Red Bull? Today we reveal the real secret behind the papaya rain in 2025. The 2025 Formula One season has begun with an absolutely unexpected narrative but has quickly become the norm: McLaren's absolute supremacy. And we are not talking only about victories, but of a type of domain that refers directly to the most hegemonic moments that the category has lived, when teams like Mercedes between 2014 and 2020 or Red Bull in the Verstappen era 2021 to 2023 seem to compete in a separate category. McLaren has raised the bar with the MCL39, a car that not only wins, but imposes a technical, operational and strategic difference that touches the unattainable for the rest of the grille. From the first checkered flag in Melbourne to the recent Grand Prix of Great Britain, each appointment has been a confirmation of the distance that separates McLaren from the rest of the championship. It is not an optical illusion, nor a statistical chance. There are 9 victories of 9 possible. Oscar Piastri has added 5 of them. Lando Norris 4. What in any other team would have been a reason for internal tension, in McLaren is a balance and coherence test. Both pilots have equivalent tools, similar strategies, and both manage to get the best out of the car. This, by itself, is already an anomaly in a sport where historically one of the two sides of the garage tends to lag behind. The tangible result is devastating: 460 points accumulated in the Builders' Championship against the barely 222 of Ferrari, which occupies the second place. The difference is not only numerical. It is visual, emotional, and feels in each race. There are times when the McLaren crossed the finish line with up to 37 seconds of advantage over the first non-McLaren on the track. And in the modern Formula One, that difference is equivalent to changing the channel, going out to make coffee, and return before the second classified arrives. It is a mechanical eternity. What turns McLaren MCL39 into a machine of mass destruction within Formula One is not only its straight speed or its curved grip. It is the surgical precision with which each car component is designed to maximize its efficiency without compromising manageability. The development of this car is a case study in how an organization can transform extreme innovation into immediate and sustainable results. Each technical innovation of MCL39 is not decorative. It is functional, intentional, and most important, effective. The first big difference is in its front suspension and its famous extreme anti-dive system. This may sound technical, but it is essential to understand how the car gets a perfect balance in all phases of a curve. Normally, when a car brakes, the front sinks a movement that affects the aerodynamic platform and generates instability. McLaren has designed its suspension system in such a way that this sinking almost does not happen. Instead of letting the braking energy transfer vertically to the ground, the system redistributes horizontally inside the chassis. This keeps the ground height constant, something that in a soil effect car like the current ones is absolutely key to generate stable aerodynamic load. No other team has managed to replicate this architecture without suffering problems of overheating, instability, or excessive tire wear. This stable platform also means that the airflow below the car, where more than 60% of the aerodynamic load occurs, remains unchanged. This not only gives more curve speed, but it allows to stop later, enter more aggressively into the curves, and leave with greater traction. It is a cumulative advantage that directly impacts each sector of the circuit. To this is added the second great differential: thermal management. While many equipment suffer to keep brakes and tires in the correct temperature window, McLaren has found a completely optimized brake pipeline design. What was previously a double-flow design, 2 air channels to cool brakes and tires, has been replaced by a single efficient route design. The result is a constant operating temperature, less thermal stress over tires, and therefore upper durability. This detail is so relevant that even Red Bull has resorted to the use of thermal cameras in boxes to study the temperature of the McLaren brake drums. The result was shocking. They were significantly colder than those of the rest of the grille, even in intense career conditions. All this makes MCL39 tires not only last longer, but also give up the first round. This reduces the need for aggressive heating strategies and saves energy from both the engine and the hybrid system. The direct consequence is a car that is not only fast on a return, but is also unsurpassed in a race pace, back after return, without falling into premature degradation. Another less visible but equally criticism is its global aerodynamic architecture. Unlike other teams that have opted for conservative designs, McLaren has embraced an aggressive philosophy. The front wing has been redesigned to control the Vortex Y250 more cleanly, better channeling the air towards the barge boards and the flat background. The rear of the car has been compacted, allowing greater efficiency of the diffuser. This translates into less aerodynamic resistance in lines and greater load in rapid curves. It is a car that generates more aerodynamic load without increasing drag, something extremely difficult to achieve. And behind all this, there is a human structure that also makes a difference. Andrea Stella, together with engineers Will Joseph and Tom Stallard, have implemented a work culture where each free session is used with maximum precision. There are no wasted turns. There are no ignored data. Each small adjustment is based on direct correlation between simulation, wind tunnel, and track behavior. The communication between the wall and the pilots is millimeter. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri not only execute well, they understand the car, feed out clearly, and allow the team to evolve every weekend without the need for great revolutions. Development has not stopped at any time. Despite its domain, McLaren has continued bringing small updates in each race. In some cases, there have been millimeter adjustments on the floor or air inlets. In others, covert tests of pieces that were introduced into Free 1 to analyze their thermal or aerodynamic behavior under controlled conditions. This philosophy of continuous improvement is what makes a specific advantage into a potential dynasty. The MCL39 is not a stroke of luck. It is the logical consequence of an engineering process perfected for years. In summary, while many teams are still understanding their cars and looking for how to correct errors, McLaren has built such a precise machine that he is not only executing his original plan, but also goes 2 steps ahead in his evolution. The development of MCL39 is, without a doubt, one of the most impressive achievements in modern Formula Engineering 1. The big question is, can anyone even approach before this season reaches its midpoint? At this point of the season, what McLaren has achieved with the MCL39 transcends the category of good performance or great car. We are facing a total statement of power, structural hegemony, and perfect execution. The truly shocking thing is not that they have won all the races. They have done it without showing weaknesses, without margin of vulnerability, and the most disturbing for their rivals, without having yet reached their evolutionary roof. Everything indicates that the MCL39 is not in its final form, but in a continuous improvement curve that could extend throughout the season. It is a car that not only wins, deforms the balance of power of the championship. This generates a paradigm shift. The rest of the teams no longer compete to win the race. They compete for being the best of the rest. In each classification session, each stint, each boxing stop, McLaren imposes a rhythm and a pressure that forces its competitors to force more than the account. This phenomenon is well known in F1. When a car is so dominant, it pushes the other teams to enter a state of overcompensation, where it risks more than due in development, strategy, or even in track maneuvers. And that often ends in errors, accidents, or technical setbacks. But this is not a story without conflict. What McLaren has also achieved has generated tensions within the paddock. There is a growing pressure on the FIA to review the legality and transparency of some of the technical solutions of the MCL39, especially in relation to the suspension system and its relationship with the active aerodynamic platform. Some teams have raised their voice in private, others already prepare formal consultations. Recent history reminds us of what happened with the Mercedes DAS in 2020, or with the blown diffusers of Red Bull in 2011. When something is so effective that it seems impossible to achieve, the natural thing is that it is questioned. McLaren, meanwhile, has been airtight. They have not given signs of concern. They continue to develop. They keep winning. And they do it without seemingly that they are operating in mode of maximum demand. The body language of its pilots, the serenity of the box's wall, the efficiency with which each plan executes, everything indicates that their true potential has not yet been fully deployed. And at the center of all this, the MCL39. A car that has not only changed the season, but is redefining what it means to build a dominant car in the ground effect. A car that, until now, has only demonstrated one thing: it has no rival. I want you to think carefully. In previous years, even in the most unbalanced seasons, there was always at least one career where the dominant team faltered. Either for a bad strategy, unexpected climatic conditions, or errors of the pilots. But with the MCL39, that moment has not yet arrived. Does that mean that it is too late for others? Or is there something that we are overlooking, the evolution of Ferrari, Mercedes, or even Red Bull, that could change the script? This is where you enter. Because this sport is not only built from the pit wall or the simulator. It is also forged in the discussion, in the analysis, in the community that interprets every return, each advance, every decision of the engineers. I want you to tell me, with arguments, with your vision, with a passion that characterizes those who understand F1 beyond the last-minute news. Who do you think can reverse the situation? Ferrari with Hamilton and Leclerc? Mercedes with Russell's thrust and Antonelli's potential? Or are you convinced that McLaren is already inevitable? And if you are one of those who already see this as a defined season, tell me how you think the FIA should act. Should the technical regulation in order to innovation such radical innovations more thoroughly? Or accept that McLaren has found the right path and let others reach them by their own merits? So leave your opinion in the comments.